Okay. Yes, that is the question. And also, if the client says, "Yep, just tell me about what you want to do and how much it's going to cost," how best to approach that?
Okay, well, let's start with the background then. So we're doing something else for him for his main business, and he's got the opportunity to purchase this new business now. We've done the feasibility study, right?
Yep.
When he said do the feasibility, what was the background that he gave you? Where was he in the decision process?
He knows the guy who owns the business. He also knows the company that the guy gets imports the products from. And he's just had a couple of initial conversations with the guy saying, what's this all about? How's it going? And then if it looks like it's a good proposition, he'd like to invest in marketing the site, potentially, see if they can sell their product. And if they can, then he might want to buy the business. It's a new business. It's only a few months old.
Okay, so that's interesting. So his intention then is see if he can drum up sales for that business. And if he can, then basically go into business doing that, whether he buys it or partners with the guy or just sets up one similar.
Yep.
Right. So that's an interesting element, because he may not be thinking, oh, well, let's redo a website, let's redo everything. He might be thinking, can I put $1,000 into this and get a sale?
He might. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, it's really important to start by understanding what is he thinking. If because to do this properly, as we talked about yesterday, he's going to want 25 grand for the website. He's going to want between 4 and 10 grand a month for marketing ongoing. Like, it's a fairly sizable investment. So we can very quickly disqualify that. If he says, oh, no, I just want to put $1,000 in or even 5 grand in and see what happens, immediately, that's not a feasibility study. That's just, it ain't going to happen. If that's all you're going to do with the current infrastructure you have, don't even try.
Right. Okay.
I think the next thing then is, do you reckon that he's the sort of guy that's really going to enjoy reading the feasibility study?
Possibly. Like you said, that marketing's his kind of Achilles heel, so he's decided to take it more seriously and start actually learning about it. So I think I don't know for sure, but I imagine in things regarding like business and investments, he's actually, he's not a disinterested party. So
let me rephrase. I think my question probably wasn't very good. Do you think that he would prefer to read a report or just have it summarized to him by the person who wrote it?
Definitely have it summarized.
Yeah, 100%. And so I think that there is a reasonable chance that he's going into this meeting looking for you to summarize it for him.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So that's going to be an important thing to understand what his intention of the meeting is.
Cool.
What's the obvious question to see what he's hoping for there when you start the meeting?
Yeah, what's this meeting about? What do you want to get out of it?
Kind of. I'd probably lead him a little more than that. I'd say, have you had a chance to read the feasibility study and watch the video in it? Cool. You haven't. So today, what would you like to get out of this meeting? Do you just want me to summarize my thoughts on the business overall? Or would you like to, what are your thoughts around the sort of next steps? Are you looking to put just a small amount in, or are you looking to do whole hog and do it properly? And then be prepared. Like we said, if he says, well, I just thought, 3-4 grand and just see what happens, you can cut him off straight away. So Get that? Well, let me summarize the report real simply. Based on the infrastructure they have right now, that would be throwing $3,000 or $4,000 away. However, if you were looking at doing it whole hog, I can see a business here that over the next few years could really flourish if it was invested in properly. Do you want to talk about that and what that looks like? Why I've come up with that solution or that opinion, and what the next steps to achieve that would look like.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, what I want to find out would be like, what's the profit margin on selling one of their cabins and that kind of thing, which presumably he could get from the guy who currently owns the business. So you could start looking at what the cost to get a sale is. That kind of thing. It's like, okay, if you spend 25 grand on a website and then another 3 or 4 grand every month, how many units would you need to sell to justify that, to make it a workable proposition?
I think that's a good question, but keep in mind what he's asking you for versus, no, how do I rephrase this? You can sometimes go too far.
Okay.
So if he wants you to go into that level of detail, so shall we work out the profit margins together? Great. I mean, not profit, work out whether it's feasible based on the profit margins. Great. Yeah. But the first point is, what are your intentions with this? What are your desires? And can I answer it with the information we already have? Okay. If he's still sitting on the fence, like, well, I don't know, do you think it'd be profitable, or do you think it would be ROI profitable? Then sure, in order to know that, we're going to know roughly what our costs are and roughly what your profits are, and we can work out a mathematical equation. But I wouldn't be going there to start with, because he's not mentally not moved to that place yet.
What I'd personally be interested in is from, like, you know, you've been part of JMarketing for a lot longer than I have. Yeah. So, like, in your experience, like, how do these projects usually go? Like, what kind of results have you generated in the past for clients? That kind of thing. Like, what's possible, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah. So it's has nothing to do with being a new business or anything else. It's always the same marketing equation. Is there a gap in the market which is not currently being filled sufficiently? Well, from our research, we would say yes, there is. It looks like there's a whole heap of 2-bit providers that aren't doing a very good job of showing why they're any good. And is there a growing demand in the region? Well, what you wrote showed there was a very, very clear growing demand. So what could we expect? Well, if we made a website that there's a lot of friction with investing in a house, right? It's a big decision. So you know that 57% of the purchase decision is made prior to talking to you. So we want to overcome as much of that friction as possible through a kick-ass website. And ideally, also, we'd get him doing social media posts about all the installations they do. Because at the moment, like I said in my video, it's just like, here's a kit home in the factory.
Actually, looking at those, I think a lot of them are graphic renders. Even worse. Yeah, they don't actually exist.
I'm forever looking on real estate portals for apartments to buy. And as soon as I see a render, I'm like, nope, not even going to pay 1 second of attention to this, because the final product is not going to be this. So why even bother? What they should
it's kind of,
is say, this is a render, and because of that, you can get it at 50% off what its market value is. Then you would have my full attention.
Yeah. Okay.
But for him, assuming that there are actually installations, or even if they're not their installations, the company they buy from, creating a social media feed. I actually did a podcast with Nick this morning about this for bespoke bathrooms. They should be showing every single one of their bathrooms on social media from go to low, the whole project.
Yep.
And that's free. He can do it himself. The guys in the company can do it themselves.
Yeah, just take some good photos.
Not even good photos. Shit photos are kind of authentic. Who doesn't want
I guess for social media.
So coming back to the question, which is what can he expect? Well, we can't promise results, but what we can say is that we know that there is this demand, and Dan's research in particular shows us about 4,000 high intent searches per month in Perth.
Yeah.
And so let's say conservatively, we got 5% of those to click on a paid ad. That is 20 people. And so let's say conservatively 10% of those inquired. So just straight out of the gates, without any of the expensive stuff, that's roughly 2 inquiries per month. And that is at a much, much, much lower advertising cost. That's probably all of $500 or $1,000 worth of cost. We wouldn't do it that way, but that's the conservative estimate.
I think some of the providers in the market are pretty good. Like there's a few of them which are pretty well set up. But yeah, definitely not all of them.
No, and we know from the work that we do that very few of them deal with all 9 of the consumer frictions. So where does their work come from? Well, it comes from consumer pass along. It comes from recommendations, reviewers. And that's what happens as you start to get the wheels turning on the business. You're going to get more and more of that. So if you could break even on your first 6 or 12 months, where could you be in 24 months once you're also adding in recommendations, you're getting more SEO, you're getting more social media. It's just going to snowball.
Cool.
So meeting structure.
Yes.
1, has he read the report?
Yep.
2, what would you like to do? Do you want me to go through the report? And what are you thinking about in terms of next steps? Is it just putting a tiny bit of money in, or is it investing fully in the business? What's a reality for you? Really make sure you understand that and tease it out. If he says, oh, yeah, I could invest quite a bit, what's the question you're going to ask?
Okay, what does quite a bit mean to you?
Yes, exactly. What are your fears is another question. You've asked me to do this feasibility study, so there's clearly some tension there. What are you thinking? And ask him, just be straight out. Is there something stopping you from doing this? Or you might say, oh, I really, really, really want to do it. I want to jump in both feet, but I've done stupid things before, so I want to make sure I'm not doing a stupid thing. What's the obvious question?
What kind of stupid things?
Yeah, exactly. Because our version of stupid thing is not necessarily the same as his stupid thing. Maybe he's willing to say, no, actually, if I burned 50K and I learned some lessons, it was money well spent. Maybe. You might say that. So we need to understand the reality.
Yeah. That was once part of an entrepreneurial meetup where we all talked about screw-ups that we've made. And there were a whole range of them. And then this lady at the end came out and she just swept the floor. Everybody, she had just this absolutely, and she just keyword, she came across really downbeat. And then when she talked about how big of a screw up she'd made, we're all like, wow, okay, we got nothing. But everyone probably, when they described this, I've screwed up in business before, they might have made the same statements, but it was just so different, the scale of everyone's different screw ups. They were like, you win. Don't know if it's really a prize that you'd want to win, but you definitely win it.
It's funny that if you've got the right way of thinking about things, in Silicon Valley, they say, never invest in someone who hasn't failed his first time. Because if you failed once, twice, or 3 times, you know what you're not going to do the next time. So you are closer to being successful.
I'm not completely sure on that though. It's kind of like that statement, nothing succeeds like success. Like when I've read like actual studies about that, if you fail your first time, you're not actually more likely to succeed the second time. Like there's many different mistakes you can make in business, like a kind of inexhaustible supply of mistakes you can make, and only a certain number of ways you can succeed. So
it's true, but we're talking about mindset, aren't we, and understanding his reality. So for some people, for this to be a real thing, a real discussion, there are some people that genuinely believe it. And our clients may genuinely believe that investing 50 grand is no big thing, and any lessons that he takes from it is a win. I have experienced that in people before. So our job is to understand his reality and then advise him based on that reality. And so to come back to our meeting structure, this is the cool thing about sales. There is no sales pitch here. If his idea is, no, I only maximum I put into this is 5 grand. Great. The sales pitch is save you money. Definitely do not do that. Don't put any money in, just talk to people you know and see if you can get a sale. And if you can, put the profit into it then.
Yeah.
But if he wants jump in whole feet, both feet first, he's real serious about it. Okay, well, do you want to talk about what sort of price you should be thinking about, money you should be thinking about over the first 12 months? Yes or no?
Cool. Yep.
Can you feel how much less friction there is when we're approaching it that way?
Yeah, totally. It's a relief.
And if it gets into money and it's uncomfortable for you too, you don't have to make a sale here. We never try to make sales. All you have to do is filter out, is he serious and what would he like in terms of detail? And then any one of us, myself included, can pick this up and deliver on the next steps. Our objective is just to understand and know how we can support him the best.
Cool. Yep. Okay.
Cool. So that's quite a lot of information. Do you feel like you've got some notes and absorbed how the next step should be approached?
Yeah, I've taken some notes. Yes.
What would you
still processing?
Yeah, you should be. What would you like to do as a next step? Would you like to, lots of different options. You can just go at it and do your best. You can try to record it so I can review it later. You can call me into the meeting. How do you feel comfortable proceeding?
I think I'll just do it and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, then following that, let's make sure we have a little bit of a catch up so you can take me through what you experienced and how it went.